Up the Villa, everybody. Since we are in the off season for the Premier League, and since this playlist is a bit of a left fielder for my normal audience, because they probably didn't know I actually had any interest in sports because I can't play them for shit, thought I'd do a little Q&A video about my love for Aston Villa and do some of the usual questions that will get asked. Best manager, best player, you get the idea. Now, for clarification for any other fans that'll go into certain eras, I'm picking from when I became an Aston Villa fan from 1993-1994 season up to present day. So anybody before that is before my time. I can't give a fair assessment. So I'll start off with my favourite manager for Aston Villa. Everybody thinks that I'm going to pick either one of two managers from Aston Villa. Unai Emery, because of the remarkable work he's done in the 2023-2024 season for Aston Villa. But I believe there's still more to come, and I don't like to say that a manager is the greatest of all time until their tenure's up. But he's got potential. Another one that they'll expect me to say is Martin O'Neill, because I am Scottish, I am a Celtic fan. Martin O'Neill has managed both of my clubs. I do love Martin O'Neill, but the worrying pattern that was with both of the clubs was that he spent a lot of money turning them into the force he needed to be. And then when he left, we were practically in debt both times, to the point where Villa almost could have gone into administration. And Celtic were also in a precarious position after he left. So while I love and respect everything that he'd done on the field, I appreciate his man management. He seems like such a lovely guy. I wouldn't say he was my favourite manager for Aston Villa. My favourite manager for Aston Villa might come as a bit of a shock. Dean Smith. He's my favourite manager because of where Villa were when he took charge and what he was able to do for them. Dean Smith took charge when Villa were in the Championship, which is the second tier of English football for anybody that isn't familiar with it. We were on a low ebb and we just came off what was probably some of the worst seasons in the club's history. Dean stepped up to the plate. We won the playoffs to get back into the Premier League, and he managed to solidify us back in the Premier League. I still think it was harsh that we sacked him when we did, and especially considering who we got after it. Look at you, Steven Gerrard. I do understand why, but he deserved more. He was a Villa man through and through. He loved the club. He managed to get us back onto some sort of level footing during times where I thought we were going into freefall, and brought us our first piece of silverware because it's a playoff final. You do win a cup. The thing that annoys me so much lately about saying that we haven't won a trophy, we won a playoff trophy. It's still a trophy, and it was the first trophy I seen Villa win in my lifetime after the 1993-1994 League Cup final. So I appreciate everything that Dean Smith done for the club to help us, because if he didn't lay those foundations, we wouldn't be where we are today. Some fans may agree with that, some may not. That's perfectly fine. You're entitled to your opinion. Feel free to leave them in the comments below, but keep it respectful or I will delete them. So the next question is the worst manager, and this is an easy one for me. Alex McLeish. He may not have statistically the worst managerial record for Villa, but it is the nature of his appointment that really annoys me. For those that don't know, Alex McLeish used to manage Birmingham City, which is one of Aston Villa's main Midland rivals. And he had great success with them. I am not going to deny that. But then he comes over and manages us. Crossing the divide is something that may not be as looked down upon now, but there is a rivalry in Scotland that is very well known. Celtic and Rangers. Alex McLeish was also a Rangers manager, and I don't hold that against him for his time down south. But the principles are the same. Alex McLeish would never have jumped from Rangers to Celtic to be a manager. You just don't do it. So why did he feel like he could do it to Aston Villa? It was a major slap in the face to the club. It felt like a desperation appointment. His style of play, very defensive, which I can understand considering he was a defender, but it was boring as anything. And it was a time when the club were just in the doldrums. We were mired in shite. They kept us up, but it wasn't pleasing on the eye. And I know that irked a lot of Villa fans, myself included. So for me, McLeish, worst manager. Again, the guy seems absolutely brilliant. He seems totally sound. Just not managing my club, please. Underrated manager. Now, everybody thinks I'm going to jump to Gerard Houllier on this one because he had to leave because of medical grounds, and it's a what could have been. And I did love Houllier. I thought he was a breath of fresh air around Villa Park. He was so humble. He was so dedicated, but not at the expense of your health. I'd rather that he looked after himself. Sadly, he's passed away now, but at the time, he needed to recover. It is a massive what if. But once again, I'm not picking Houllier. he isn't underrated when you look at any of his other work in a professional managerial capacity. He already proved that he had potential and utilized it. Underrated as a manager that I feel has potential, never quite reached it, and I would love to see back in the dugout at some point, even though right now they're very comfortable doing commentary. And that is Tim Sherwood. The guy won me over. Sorry, faithful villains, but he won me over. He's a guy that just goes for it. He's all out, but his heart in his sleeve. Lives by the sword, dies by the sword. If he wins, he wins. If he loses, there's another game for us to pick up points again. He came in firefighting a season where we were in freefall. I genuinely thought we were going to get relegated that season that he stepped in as interim manager, but we didn't. And we managed to climb back up the table, get us safe from relegation, because at that time it was Villa. We were used to fighting relegation on a season by season, game by game basis. And he helped get us to a cup final. Granted, we got absolutely thrashed, but it was a cup final. We got there, and I was more than happy to be there at that point, considering how our season had gone. Yes, when he took over, his win record wasn't exactly great, but you can't deny the guy had passion, he had commitment, and he really wanted the club to do well. Might not agree with it, but he won me over. Worst player. That everybody's expecting me to say Micah Richards. He was constantly injured, it just felt like he was there just for the wage and just stole a wage. While I agree with that, it's not your fault if you're injured. You can't help if you have injuries. I believe that Micah Richards came to the club with the best intentions. He wanted to do well for us. He wanted to be a great player for the club. Sometimes you're dealt a crappy hand, and he was. I don't think he deserves the hate that he gets from the fans. He tried his best. Injuries knocked him down. And if you were in the situation where you were injured for your work and you were still getting paid full wage, you would bite your hand off for it. So of course he's going to take it. Football's a short career. Make the money while you can. While he's been fortunate enough to land some commentary roles and punditry, wasn't a guarantee at the time. So you don't know if that's the money you're going to live on for the rest of your life. Take the money, run. It is a shame that it was Villa's money that he took though. My worst player, in my opinion, Joleon Lescott. He flung in the till. And this is from somebody who was a supposed Villa fan. It was just like he resigned to his fate that he was going to be crap. The team around him he thought was crap, and he just didn't bother. I don't believe that that is the case for him as a professional athlete, but that's how it appeared in the park. And when it's a club that you say that you've supported since you were a kid, and you just let the side down, that's something that's not very forgivable for me. I have to compare it to Celtic again, but there are Celtic players who were boyhood fans that just played absolute rank rotten in the jersey. There's a saying, the jersey's too big for you. That's what it felt like with Joleon Lescott. The expectation was too much for him. Overrated player. There's been a few of them in Villa Park, but one that I am going to say, and Villa fans are not going to like it, but I don't care. Christian Benteke. He played out his skin for Villa, plenty of goals, was a bright spark at a time when we were absolutely rank rotten, but he let it go to his head. Thought he was bigger than the club, went off to Liverpool, and anybody heard from him since? Once again reminds me of a player from Celtic, and that is Odsonne Edouard. Plays well for a time. The press instantly make him this global sensation. He believes his own hype, downs tools, gets a big money move, and has faded into relative obscurity ever since. Christian Benteke for Villa, absolutely no different. It's something that does annoy me about players sometimes, especially in the modern game. When the media get a sniff of you and they think all of a sudden that you're the ticket, that of course goes to your head and you end up essentially self-sabotaging your career. I just don't get why you can't keep building your reputation at the club you're at to really make sure you're worth the price tag. So sorry, Benteke, in my opinion, you're overrated. But I'm going to end with a positive note. I talk about the best players of Aston Villa. Modern day greats, Jack Grealish and John McGinn. John McGinn in particular, because of where he came from, Hibs, up in Scotland. Look how well he's done for Aston Villa. Championship playoff winner. European Conference League semi-finalist. Captain of the team. Led us to our highest placed league standing in a very long time. He's called Super John McGinn for a reason, and I am all for that. Looking back to when I first started supporting Villa, Dwight York was one that was frequently on my lips. I loved his style, I loved his play, I loved his commitment, his dedication, and then you have players like Gareth Barry, James Milner, Stelian Petrov, another player that played with Celtic but also proved his worth down south. But the best player for Aston Villa, in my opinion, Mr. Aston Villa from my generation, Gabby Agbonlahor. When he was on his game, the guy just oozed class. He was a quality player, supremely talented, fiercely dedicated to Aston Villa. through good times and through a lot of bad times. There are several times that players like Abonglahor could have went to a bigger club, but he never left. He stayed true to the club that gave him his opportunity and saw out his career there. There are not many players that you can say are true one club men in the modern day. Abonglahor is that guy. Now, a lot of people have said about his play in the latter stages of his career. I think certainly he was playing at the highest level. He could probably run rings around most of the people that say, yeah, he's overrated or he wasn't a good player. As could all the players that I have mentioned, like either in worst or overrated. I can't play football for shit. I am horrible. I am definitely an armchair supporter. I freely admit that. I don't deny any of the players I mentioned have skill, have pace, have quality. It's your mentality and how you use it is what I will always look at. And in this case, Abonglahor had that in spades. He loved the club. He loved playing for the jersey. There were several times that he practically dragged us over the line. Not with goals scored, but with being a captain. So, best player, in my opinion, it's Gabby. For any Villa fans, let me know in the comments below about any of your choices. Who's your favourite manager? Who do you think was shite? Let me know. Let me know if there's any other types of videos you want me to do before the next season kicks off. And finally, up the Villa.